Let's talk about Africa. Let's talk about underdevelopment in Africa. Africa is this continent with huge human and natural resources. But advancement has become a problem. Africa, my Africa. Africa of proud warriors in the central savannah. Africa of whom my grandmother sings on the bank of the distant river. I have never known you, but your blood flows in my vein. Your beautiful black blood that irrigates the field. The blood of your sweat, the sweat of your work, the work of your slavery. Africa, tell me Africa. That's the poem of David Diop. Look at this work here. It is entitled Philosophy of African Liberation. You say, Philosophy of African Liberation. This work is a critical examination of why Africa is where it is. Philosophy of African Liberation, dismantling the tripod stand of bondage in Africa. On page 3, the author states, due to absence of an organic socio-political evolution or consented union, the constituent groups in many African countries have never agreed or been given a chance to agree on their union, noble vision, or national purpose. So, they always suspect, fight, and hinder one another. The author of this work is Chukwunwike Enekwechi. Enekwechi, it's good to have you on State Affairs.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Philosophy of African Liberation. What is driving you towards thinking of African liberation?
What drives me is pride. I'm Chukwunwike Enekwechi. Chukwunwike is an Igbo name. And the Igbo people are known to be very proud people. Now, before I move a little, I have to make a little distinction between some meanings of pride. There is pride as appreciation of who you are, of who others are. When you say, I'm proud of my son, means I appreciate the good in him and wish that it grows. There is pride as defense. That is, when you say you are proud to beg or proud to reduce yourself to some things because of the name of your people or because of something that you wish to protect. So that is pride as defense. And then there is a third one, pride as oppression or arrogance. That is the pride to suppress other people based on what you think you have. So you want to, oppress or suppress other people because of the good in you. So the pride I'm talking about is the pride especially of defense and then of appreciation. Because I grew up among my people. I'm from Nise. Nise is in Oka South of Anambra State. So I grew up among my people and then I saw within them a lot of potentials, intelligence, courage, a lot of things. But when they come outside their Nise enclave, it's not very easy for them to manifest the potentials that I already saw in them back there. So I began thinking, why is it that they, within when they are coming up, you see a lot of potentials, in your cousins, but when they come out after some time, the whole potential disappeared, no manifestation. When we were small, some of us were crafting cars and stuff, and you'll be thinking this one would be a great engineer. Eventually, after 10, 20 years, the engineering dream, everything is gone. Everything disappeared.
Why?
So that is why I began to research. Why is it that our people do not manifest the potentials in them? Because I love my people to move out, to come out, to manifest, to blossom. But I don't see it, so I began to ask the questions and research. And it is clear the difference between the developed nations and the underdeveloped nations. The developed nations, in fact, some of those young ones I grew up with, when they travel to developed nations, they prosper, they manifest some of this greatness, but here in Nigeria they don't, in Africa they don't. So I wanted to know the difference. So the major difference between developed and underdeveloped nation, I identified it as the triple stand of bondage for underdeveloped nations and triple stand of freedom for developed nations. This is it.
Now, when you talk about develop,
yes,
and underdeveloped nations,
okay,
in your work,
okay,
you looked at development from two angles: economy and politics.
Yes.
Now, let's look at the political angle of it.
Okay.
Because in politics, you say a country is developed when the constituent units
yes
of that country came together
yes
and accepted to be one.
Exactly.
In that case, you say their politics is advanced.
Yes.
Is that the case of Africa?
No. Africa is an amalgamation of unconsented people who, according to one of my professors, Father Anthony Akinwale, he says that they are like people who are held together at gunpoint. Anyone that tries to leave, the former colonialists will supply all the guns and intelligence for making sure that they remain. They will be shot until they stay back. So, except you do not have like mineral resources or what the colonialists want, then you could be allowed to leave. So, the countries in Africa did not agree to be together. They were created at 1885 Berlin Conference, where the colonial masters sat together in Europe at Berlin, Germany, and then used pen to draw patterns on African map and then allocate land to themselves without consent of the people who are the owners or dwellers of those lands. So that was how African countries came to be.
So if they are not consented unions, they are politically underdeveloped.
Totally. Without consent to be together, what you get is fracas, constant conflict, and that is what you see all over Africa.
Including Nigeria.
Especially in Nigeria. Yes, in Nigeria, they say we have 250 ethnic groups. Nobody knows whether it is only 250. There is possibility that it's 300 or more. There is no particular time in history where the whole 250 communities or people sent their own delegates to discuss about the purpose of this nation. There is no time in history.
So you're talking about discussion of ethnic nationality.
Yes, there was never a time it happened. The British simply came in after they got their partition in the Berlin Conference. They simply came in with guns and began shooting down all the communities until they surrendered to become one in the amalgamation.
And you said economically developed nations are those where people have the liberty, skills, and infrastructure to create high-quality products and services for local prosperity and for external trade.
Yes.
For economic development to happen, there must be political development.
Yes.
So if there is no political development,
Economic development is nearly impossible. It's not totally, it's nearly impossible. Okay, now let me explain the relationship between politics and the economy. But before then, you get culture. So these three things, these three elements follow each other. Culture is the way of life of a specific people, an ethnic group, a homogeneous group. Now, when different homogeneous groups, different groups who are homogeneous, then leave their homogeneity and come together by any means or any factor, then they form a way of living together harmoniously. Then that becomes their politics. The different communities come together, then they have their politics, their way that they agree to interact, share whatever it is they have to do. Then from that, they begin to develop the material technology to enable them to prosper within that their politics. So culture influences politics, then politics influences economy. Now, without the culture being strong, the politics will not be strong, then the economy will not be strong. So it is culture that influences politics, then politics influences economy. Then economy creates the prosperity that, it's a cycle. Then economy creates the wealth that furnishes the culture. Then the culture continues growing. It's a cycle and it continues growing. So without this three cycle, culture, different people come together, know themselves, know what is good among them, then come together as politics. Let us find a way that we can work together. Then create material wealth to sustain themselves and prosper themselves. Then without this sequence, you just have crackers.
So the key word here is consent.
Yes.
They must give the consent.
Exactly.
To form a nation.
Yes.
It is upon that consent that they will be able to develop the material well-being required for their advancement.
Exactly.
And Nigeria hasn't done that.
No.
Is Nigeria underdeveloped or developing?
Nigeria is underdeveloped. Now I hear some people say developing. Developing means that there is progress, that you are moving towards something. So from time to time, you can measure the stages of development. But in Nigeria, I don't think we are making any development. It's where we have been since 1960. It's still the same thing.
Remember your definition of economic development.
Okay.
Where people have the liberty,
yes,
skills,
yes,
and infrastructure,
yes,
to create high quality products,
okay,
and services for local prosperity and for external trade.
Good.
Are we not creating products?
That's the very important question. What product are we truly creating in Nigeria? What product are we creating in Nigeria? I see many people say, of course, we are building roads, we are building train stations and stuff. Yeah, when you go there, what you see is tractors imported, and then these are imported. You are importing something and then placing. It is like grafting. You are grafting. They are not locally made things. Many of the cars that we are saying that they are made in Nigeria are imported parts that are now worked together and then stayed.
So we have assembling plants.
That is what it is. That is what they are.
So the point you are making is that we are yet to produce quality products.
We are yet to produce quality products. In fact, the major export of Nigeria is crude oil. That's the major export of Nigeria. From that, then other people are trying to augment it with cocoa and other farm products. But those are not enough to offset the balance of trade. They are not enough, and they will never be. Because what you sell in crude, when it's being imported, it's imported at an astronomical rate. For instance, if you sell 10 naira worth of cocoa crude cocoa. When it is produced as chocolate outside and then being imported, you could buy it for 100 naira or 200 naira. The same 10 naira worth of cocoa. So the value added is outside, and that value added that is outside is what grows the external world while we continue just sending out.
So we have established that lack of common nationhood is a fundamental problem of African states.
Yes.
And since these fundamental problems exist, Africa will continue to struggle.
Yes.
So let's trace this lack of common nationhood.
Okay.
You said the Berlin Conference.
Yes.
Will be blamed for it.
I don't use the word blame.
Okay.
I don't ever use the word blame. Blame is like you find a fault that enables you to run away from any responsibility. I rather use cause, to find the cause, because in medicine, I worked in a hospital. When a patient comes, the first thing is to take him to the lab so that they find what is the disease. You find the cause. Because when you come, for instance, you have malaria, you may have blisters and fever and other external symptoms, but those external symptoms are not the disease. The disease is the malaria in the bloodstream. And until you treat the disease itself, these external symptoms will continue to manifest. It doesn't matter how much you... So first thing is to find the cause. And then when you find the cause, then you treat it. So I don't blame the Berlin Conference. I say that it is the Berlin Conference that brought the imposed nationhood. It laid the foundation for the imposed nationhood. So for it to be undone, you have to find another foundation for a consented nationhood. You find another foundation. Like malaria is the foundation for the blisters on the mouth and the fever and the odd. As malaria is the foundation, you have to find another foundation. That is why doctors will inject another component in the bloodstream so that it will erase the symptoms and then the malaria itself.
You know, in your work, you also raised the point. You called it absence of an organic socio-political evolution.
Yes.
I'm looking like a country like Somalia.
Okay.
It is monocultural.
Okay.
They are Muslim.
Okay.
In fact, they are family.
Good.
So how do we explain the unending war in that country?
Number one, I will say that I'm not an expert in Somalia. However, when a person is thrown amongst people who are suffering from something, there is a higher possibility or probability that the person becomes infected with what those people around him are suffering. Yes. So it is by association. You can call it by association. In Somalia, they have an Islamic influence, a very high level of Islamic influence. And I don't know exactly to the extent the Islamic influence has the level of influence Islamic culture has on them, on the crisis that is going on there. I don't know. But what I'm answering is based specifically on Nigeria and the countries around it. Africa as a whole, especially sub-Saharan Africa, is not created to progress industrially. We are created to serve as the source of raw materials to the industrialized world. So that is why when they came, the colonialists, when they came, the first thing they did is to impose law, what we call land expropriation law. Before then, let me make a little clarification. There are 4 orthodox policies of colonialism. Number 1, impose law and order. Law of land expropriation or expropriation altogether. Number 2, stimulate production of raw materials. Number 3, stimulate dependence on foreign products. Number 4, tax them so that you continue to keep them loyal to the system. Tax them continuously to keep them loyal to the system. So that's number 1. Impose law and order is impose land expropriation law and keep it there so that they'll continue supplying you with
So that is one of the legs of the tripod.
Yes.
Land expropriation laws.
Yes.
So when you say land expropriation laws, when the colonialists came,
Yes.
they grabbed the lands of the people.
Yes.
So the people lost their land.
The people lost ownership of their land from that moment. So eventually, what happened was when they came in, initially they tried to come in, by some form of subtle ways. But when they saw that the subtle means was taking time, they had to make it clear. Then new officers began going into different countries in Africa.
It became conquest.
It became clear conquests. No more being subtle about it. It became clear. That was when Frederick Lugard came to Nigeria. It was not more time for pity party. It was clear we are here to take over the land. The Caliph Al-Tahiru, around 1903, ran from his Sokoto Caliphate, and he was hunted and killed by Lugard's men, because they were the ones fighting against colonial invasion to take over their lands. But they came, continued, and these ones were coming with sword and arrow and spear. But these guys, the colonial masters, they were coming with guns. So you can't face someone with guns using your sword and your spear. So that was how they were slaughtered and then subdued.
You said on page 5 of your work,
okay,
that this land expropriation law, which the European colonialists later transferred to post-colonial regimes at independence with a socialist justification of caring for the people, crushed pre-colonial attempts at industry,
yes,
blocked the chances for private industrial initiatives from the landowners, and supported former colonialists to extract the natural resources that various Africans would have used to get adequate loans, labor, and machines to create real wealth in industries.
yes.
Before colonialism,
Okay.
why didn't Africans use the land for progress?
Thank you so much. Progress, industrial progress in itself, comes not just as a property of one community, one small community. No, it comes from interaction. Either before the world wars, it was interaction based on war. So people were innovating so that they can conquer the other nations around them, or they can defend themselves from other nations around them. But sub-Saharan Africa as a place was somehow geographically separated from the rest of the world. I don't know exactly the time when the Sahara Desert grew to become a barrier, but the Sahara Desert, even if you go there now, it's a vast expanse of land that is dry land. So as at that time, when people could only cross by horses, Europeans were crossing by horses. So the interaction between, you see, North Africa is closer to industrialization than sub-Saharan Africa, because they participated in the interaction. Alexander went to Egypt to do some of his conquest, and then so they had their interaction, be it conquest, be it trade, they had their interaction. But sub-Saharan, that Sahara Desert, somehow isolated the sub-Saharan Africans from developing as much as the others. It's not that there was no development at all. Benin Kingdom had street lights. No, not streets, electric lights, but their street lights they had good roads. The Benin Wall, they had all these things as early as the 17th, 16th, even 15th century.
So they were developing at their own pace.
At their own pace, not at the industrial pace of the Western world or the world above.
Meanwhile, industrialization even started in the 18th century.
Yes.
In Britain.
Yes. So they did not have that cultural interaction that necessitated industrialization. So that is why they could not value some of the resources that they had to the extent of developing them industrially.
So by the time the Europeans came,
yes, they were far ahead in the industrialization, while it's like a 1-year-old against a 20-year-old. The gap was already there.
And that was seeing the kind of firearms they came with.
Yes. Oh, let me tell you a little story. When the Europeans came, when the British came, they were passing through Ijebode, and they said that the Ijebode, they had very strong men, hefty men with big chests. So they came out with their machetes and spears and arrows to attack, to defend themselves from the invading Europeans, from the invading British. So on coming, but the Europeans were coming with machine guns. So when you see maybe you are short, and then you see people who are taller than you and heftier than you, that are falling to this gun that somebody's holding from a distance of 200 meters, but you are waiting to get close so that you can cut the person. You simply run away. So when other people who are bigger than you are falling by this gun, you surrender. So after Ijebode fell and other people fell around them, when the Europeans came to Ibadan surrendered. So they called it peaceful handover. They called it something like, it was not peaceful handover. They saw what your guns could do there. So they simply handed over. It was not peaceful. It was surrender.
We've identified land expropriation law.
Yes.
As one of the stands.
Yes.
In your book, you also talked about imposed nationhood.
Yes.
And you also talked about the contest for getting and using foreign products and services.
Yes.
So these three factors are what you call tripod stand of bondage.
Exactly.
In Africa.
Exactly. And these three factors are what you are missing in the developed nations. They were able to remove it so that they can prosper. In the developed nations, even if it came late, they have consented nationhood, a people who consent for a common purpose. They have private property rights, that you own your land, not like in Africa where government claims to own all the lands and people are leasing or renting their own lands from government. No, there it is private property rights. You own your land. And then they compete. Because you own your land and what is in your land, you compete, you are free to use the resources in it to produce what you can. And when you produce something beautiful and your brother sees that you have produced something finer, he wants to produce something finer. And as you are competing on who produced the best quality, you are all advancing.
Let me take you back a bit. In Nigeria, the Land Use Act says the land belongs to the governor.
Yes.
The government.
Not to the governor, to the government.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the Land Use Act is built on the Land Expropriation Law of 1885. The language of the Land Use Act says this is to vest in the governor the control of the land within the state. They vest it. Now, who is vesting? The vesting is coming from the head of state. So where does the head of state get the power or the authority to vest lands on governors? It's from the Land Expropriation Law, which was handed over in 1960 at independence.
So that is one of the causes of underdevelopment in Nigeria.
That is the major factor. Among the three factors, the imposed nationhood, land expropriation law, and contest for foreign products, this land expropriation law is the major factor. It is the anchor of underdevelopment in the whole of Africa. Without private property rights, I see a lot of election candidates arguing on what they will do and what they cannot do. I continue to tell them, without private property rights, it does not matter who you vote in. Even if you want vote in an angel, nothing will change. In fact, maybe a little new roads here, just little stuffs here and there. But the major systemic growth will not happen.
But people buy land here and you get a certificate of occupancy.
Okay. What you get is certificate of occupying. You are occupying, not ownership. So when you are
that certificate can be revoked
any minute. You are renting. It's like you are renting land, your own great-grandfather's land. You are renting it for 99 years if it is residential and 49 years if it is commercial. Yeah, but the government can come in anytime to take it away from you and then decide how much to pay you as compensation.
So that is colonial inheritance.
That is the foundation.
We must break that leg.
Exactly.
For development to happen.
Yes. Without that, okay, there is this lady in the United States. She's Nikki Haley. I believe she's a Republican politician. She says that a few elites in government offices can never outthink millions of private property owners who are discovering, developing, distributing, and manifesting the greatness in their private property. So without that private property, people will just be lying down waiting for government to bring one magic wand or one magic ideology or one magic plan, and the magic plan will never happen.
We are looking at Chukwunwike Enekwechi's work, Philosophy of African Liberation, Dismantling the Tripod Stand of Bondage in Africa. You see, this is the work we are discussing. African liberation. And it reminds me of Professor Egosa Osagai's lecture, A State of Our Own. Egosa Osagai talked about the struggle for a state of our own. And because of that struggle, Africans are now questioning the legitimacy of the state. And because of that questioning, different African countries have gone to war to answer that question. I recommend this work to you. It's a work you should read. It also reflects the argument made by Chukwunwike Enekwechi in his work, Philosophy of African Liberation. Egosa Osagai is also the author of this work, Nigeria Since Independence, Crippled Giant. Why is it a crippled giant? It is connected to the subject of contested nationhood. So scholars and researchers have been writing on this subject. So I'm recommending these works by Professor Egosa Osagai to you. He's a professor of comparative politics. A State of Our Own and Nigeria Since Independence, Crippled Giant. If there is a work I want you to read, it is the work we are discussing at the moment. Philosophy of African Liberation, Dismantling the Tripod Stand of Bondage in Africa. It's a smooth and sweet read. You know, you wanted this as a PhD work.
Yes.
That's what that concept.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's still a research You are expanding.
Right now, it's not just expanding as a research now. Now it is moving as a movement.
A movement.
Yes. Now, in fact, somehow I'm happy that it stopped here so that the actual research, the actual part, the practical side of the work will come out and involve more people. Right now, I'm working with a group of people who are preparing for what I call Restart National Conference. The Restart National Conference is a conference in which we want to address this triple stand of bondage so that we can replace the triple stand of bondage with triple stand of freedom. Now, people are united by something. People don't just come together for nothing. Something has to unite them. And most nations are united by an ideology. So it's either an ethnic ideology, a religious ideology, or what I will call a universalized ideology. For instance, America is united by a universalized ideology, what I call ideology of the supremacy of individual liberty. We hold this to be true, that all men are created equal, or they're endowed by their creator with liberty, pursuit of happiness. The whole, you see it in their Declaration of Independence. That is their ideology. In fact, I don't think there is any better ideology than that in the world. Or will there be? Now, will there be aberrations in the application of this ideology? Yes, there are many aberrations in the application, but ideology is meant to be ideal, to be 100%. It may never be attained at that 100%, but you try to get to 90% to 80%, but that ideal has to be incorruptible. So the American ideology in itself is 100%. So we hold this to be true, that it is applicable to any human being anywhere in the world. That is why it is universal. Apart from the universalized ideology, you have ethnic ideologies. Ethnic ideology, you can find it in some countries in Asia, where a country, in fact, it was there in Germany. That was one of the moving streams of the World War, of the Second World War. It is called German über alles. They are Germans first. Every other person is second. So they want to hold down everybody to be under them, to know that they are Germans first. So that is ethnic ideology. Some people call it fascism. Now, the third one is religious ideology. Religious ideology, you can see it in also Asia, in the Middle East, Islamic nation of this, Islamic nation of that. So the moving ideology, the central unifying factor is the religious ideology in Islam. In Africa, in Nigeria, we don't have a unifying ethnicity that we can call an ethnic ideology to unite us. We don't have a unifying religion to unite us. There's Islam, there's Christianity, there's traditional religion, there are many others. So when we can't use religion or ethnicity to unite ourselves, then we have to find a universalizable ideology to unite us. That is why I'm bringing up another ideology, which I call ideology of intercultural liberty.
Ideology of intercultural liberty.
Yes.
In chapter 3 here, entitled The Philosophy of African Liberation, you said without identifying and guiding the basic ideas that influence its people,
yes,
a society will continually fail to improve its condition.
Yes.
So that is why you are coming up with these ideologies.
Yes.
And these your ideologies can be identified as the philosophy of African liberation.
Exactly. That is the philosophy of African liberation. In fact, the thing is this, like I explained earlier, let me try to define the ideology of intercultural liberty. It is the belief that there is something great in every community and culture. And so they all deserve the liberty to own, modify, and use their cultural, human, and natural resources to prosper. And because of that, the 4 institutions of public regulation, which are government, religion, academia, and mass media, are only made to support these communities and their members to manifest their greatness. So as we have different cultures and communities in the various countries in Nigeria, they deserve some liberty to manifest what is unique to them, manifest it to their community, to their nation, to the continent, to the world. Because I believe there is no human being that is all evil. No human being. It's when the environment, the conditionalities around, inspires people, then they look for it and then they bring it out. And I believe that every community in Nigeria can find something great in them and manifest it for the greatness of Nigeria.
The manifestation, would it come within a single nationhood or within their own nationhood?
Now, the manifestation, well, when I'm saying communities, different communities, when they have ownership of their lands, of their culture, of whatever is within them, then they begin producing what they can, their product, their services, their environment, their groomed environment, and their way of life, which is depicted as movies or books or whatever. Now, when they are manifesting this, they are not manifesting it only for themselves. You have to trade with others. And when you are trading your cultural products to Kanuri or to Igbo or to there, you are exchanging things, and when you see that their own is getting better, you improve your own. So it's the trade itself is what makes it a harmony.
Is it not happening already?
No, it is not happening.
The Edos are Edos.
Okay.
I see them as a bit their culture.
Yes.
I see the Ibibio show its cultural identity.
Good.
Igbo, Yoruba, Fulani, you see them. When you identify them.
Yes.
Is that not intercultural liberty?
It is not enough. The basis, land expropriation law, which enables them to use their resources to create material products. In fact, when you come, the last time I was in my town, almost all the apparel that people were wearing were imported. During the last there was this beautiful carnival they did in Ijebu. I don't remember the name. A very beautiful, colorful carnival. All the clothes there are imported from China. Yes, the clothes. Now there is all one bear in the Yoruba land, and it's a very beautiful thing to do. But the material products for manifesting this is coming from outside, not from inside. So if they increase the price, then you people have to pay more for it to happen.
And you become poorer.
Yes.
Because you are not manifesting your potentials.
Your own human beings, although we are spiritual. But the physical is what we use to manifest in the physical world. To build this is the physical. Now, when you are not manifesting the physical, the spiritual becomes stunted. Yes, you have to manifest, bring it out. Now, they are not producing things. It's just what I call boropos. So you borrow from Oyibo whatever they produce, and then you flaunt it. In fact, it is the third. It is one of the manifestations of the third leg, which is contest for foreign products. It is contest for importing, getting and using foreign products.
You, in your analysis,
yes,
exempted South Africa from the underdeveloped states
yes.
in Africa. Why did you do that?
I did that because South Africa is a dual economy. There is white and overbearing white population. When I say overbearing, I don't mean that there are more, but they are, I think they're about 20% white, but they have control and ownership of over 70% of the land in South Africa. So it is a disparity of its own. Now, because they came already, and then they keep on bringing in their people who are already industrialized with the knowledge of industry. It is like they have the industrialized version of their brothers imported into a specific land within Africa.
So what they did first was to say we need to own the land.
Yes.
So the land ownership.
Yes.
They expropriated the land.
Yes.
And owned it.
Yes.
And used it for development.
Yes. Yes. So that's the product of apartheid. The apartheid that.
But what would change now if you tell me tomorrow, okay, you say Ijebu.
Okay.
The land now belongs to you.
Okay.
Because if you go to Ijebu, they believe they still call it family land.
Okay.
If you go to some part of Igbo land, they say this land still belongs to us.
Okay.
The traditional Igbo don't say the land is government.
Okay.
If you go to villages, they believe they own the land.
Thank you.
So
now what is different is this: when you have certificate of ownership,
they don't even have certificate.
No, they
in
don't
the villages.
they don't have certificate, and they don't understand it. Now,
so they still call it customary land.
Yes. Now, when you have certificate of ownership, it becomes a leverage for you to get loans from the bank, so an investment from the bank, so that you can develop whatever you want to develop. Now, when there is certificate of ownership, there are many Africans outside Nigeria who are in the developed world who are waiting for security of land so that they can invest.
But people still use land as collateral.
Okay, to what extent is that collateral happening? They use land as collateral, of course, for building a house, not for industry per se. And people will not seriously industrialize. Industry takes about 30 years, some take 20, 30, 40 years to manifest, when you begin to invest. Now, when you invest in an industry, but you know that a government can come in the next 8 years and revoke ownership, you will not have the mind to bring in that. Okay, there was this the one that happened, the beach. There is this beach resort. I've forgotten the name.
In Lagos.
In Lagos, yes. The man said he invested about $100 million or something in that beach resort, and then government just came. They want to build roads. They wiped out everything.
So if he owned the land,
if he owned the land, government will not have done that, because there will be security for your investment. Without security for people's investment, people will not have the confidence to bring in the amount of money they make outside to invest in their land.
Now, we've talked about the liberation of Africa, but I have seen Western argument that is saying that the problem of Africa is not colonialism.
Okay.
That the problem of Africa is the failure of institutions to do well. So corruption, according to them, is a failure of institution.
Okay.
So underdevelopment is a product of the failure of institutions.
Okay.
What do you think?
Thank you for this wonderful question. Sometime in the last year, I was listening to one revered professor, Professor Dennis Prager of the Prager University, who also made a comment like this, that Africa is poor because of corruption. And it was a very moving statement. First, corruption of institutions. Institutions are created by people for a purpose. Now, if the purpose of the institution is not found in the well-being of the people itself, the people will eventually revolt against those institutions and their way and their oppressions. For instance, the government is the number one institution in Nigeria now. But Nigerian government was not created by the people. It was not created by Nigerians. It was imposed by colonialism. And when an institution is imposed, and then the people are not getting what they want from the institution, then you have what is called deviation from what they order, from the instituted order. So the deviation is what they call corruption. For instance, I want to make a little... When you build a car and then the car is working right, the parts will stay together and will stay together very well. But when the car is not built well, when you pour in oil or fuel, they will leak. And that leaking is corruption. It is a deviation from what is intended for a car to do. When you build a nation for the people, through the informed consent of the people work towards it. But when you impose a nation on a people, along with the institutions, the people will continue to revolt through actions that you call institution, because it is in the nature of humans to search for freedom.
So endemic corruption is a reaction to a non-consented nation.
You just summarized it 100%.
Ideology of intercultural liberty. Restart Niger.
Yes.
You want to implement a philosophy of African liberation.
Yes.
That means you want Africans to come together and give consent to nationhood.
Exactly. This is the summary of the work. Give consent to the nationhood, one, and then initiate programs that will make the nations work.
You know, people are calling for restructuring in Nigeria.
Yes.
You know, a reappraisal of the constitution. You know, some are saying we need regionalism.
Okay.
Let the Igbos
go their way.
Go their way in a confederal system. Okay. Some say they want Biafra.
Okay.
So all these are what you call the struggle for nationhood.
They are the struggles for nationhood. On that matter of regionalism and Biafra and agitation for secession, yes, they are legitimate in their senses. But I don't think they will have the unifying element, even among when they secede. Because human beings, we are just body now, but inside is the ideology that moves it, like software. Now, the software, what is the software driving this demand for secession? Is it Igbo supremacist mentality, we are better than, or Yoruba supremacist mentality? Is it something that you can grow? Because if you are not able to grow things, if you are not growing, something that is not growing is invariably shrinking. So the ideology behind these struggles for different nationhoods, I don't see them as ideologies that are worth growing. They will shrink. Even if they don't shrink, they will implode on the people who are doing them. Because when you come out and start propagating Igbo supremacy or Yoruba supremacy, after you've sent all those people away, that ideology of looking for someone to manifest your supremacy upon will still be there, that you turn it on your own brothers within the enclave.
Is that what we are seeing in places like South Sudan after independence?
Yes.
So how will Restart Nigeria and the ideology of intercultural liberty give us that advanced country that we want?
Thank you so much. The Restart National Conference, that is the what I'll call the goal. The Restart National Conference and its implementation is meant to address this triple stand of bondage. Number one, in getting a consented nationhood, you have to adopt an ideology that can unite people, not force. Because whatever you create, you get by force. You need force to protect it. But if it gets it by consent, it's only consent of the people to continue moving it up. Yeah. So the Restart National Conference is meant to disseminate this ideology of intercultural liberty to all the states and communities in Nigeria so that they see it, believe in themselves that they have something within them to bring out, to develop, to manifest, to be proud of themselves. I said in the beginning that I'm a very proud person, and I want every community in Nigeria to be proud. When you wake up in the morning, you say, I am Chukwunwike Enekwechi. I am from Nice. And by the time of my death, I will want that nobody from Nice will ever be threatened with deportation in any part of the world. You say it boldly, believe it, and start working towards it. It's something to live for. It's something to fight for. It's something to believe in. But when you know also that Nice alone cannot do it in isolation. Okay, Nice is surrounded by other communities. Then we can work it together. Or other communities within Awka South. We are not enough. Why not in Anambra? Oh, but we are not enough. Why not in Nigeria? So when you see it from this perspective, that you can work together with all other communities within Nigeria on an ideology that unites you together, then people will respect others to produce what they can so that we
Have
can
you developed that ideology? Have you created it?
Yes.
You have created the ideology.
Yes.
And that is what you are presenting in the conference?
Yes. So, number one agenda of the conference is adoption of this ideology of intercultural liberty. That's number one. Number two is to, how do you say it? To ban, is it ban? To eliminate the Land Expropriation Law, Land Use Act, and Nigerian Mineral and Mining Act by recognizing individuals and communities' ownership of their lands as private property.
So that can also be resource control.
It is.
Communities should control their resources
properly. Now, some people will argue, but they don't know it. They don't have the knowledge about it. Of course, they don't have the knowledge about it. That is why you have regulations.
So expropriation of land can also be described as expropriation of resources.
Yes, that's the major reason for it. Because land on its own will not be useful if resources cannot be taken from them.
So you are looking at a state of nations.
Yes, exactly. A state of nations. So where people agree, respect others, let us. Okay, I said earlier that C. Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, although they were rivals, they were the best blessings for each other. They reigned through the football world for about 15 years, unconquered, two of them. But both of them were always at loggerhead with each other. And because of that, they continued developing their capacity. For instance, if C. Ronaldo wanted to lag behind, he remembered that Messi was training. So he wakes up and starts working harder and harder. So Messi, the same thing. So both of them are improving to outdo each other in the greatness in their worlds. So when this private property rights comes in, people will struggle as rivals to outdo each other in manifesting the greatness in their communities. And this manifestation comes, as I explained earlier, as products, services, groomed or beautified, developed environment, and then their depicted ways of life. There is something good in all our ways of life, in our histories that we can bring out. Even if they are not very beautiful as we may want, we can have ways of embellishing them or presenting them so that we see.
So who is organizing this conference?
At the moment, I may not be able to call out the groups that are involved, but I'm working with groups of people who will sensitize the people and mobilize the people to reach into the communities to get the people on board for it.
We are talking about Africa. You say this work, the Pan-African Pantheon, prophets, poets, and philosophers. Chukwunwike is a philosopher. If you read his work, you know you are reading a philosopher. And if you have this book, you have the thoughts of many African philosophers compiled into this work. This is also a work on African liberation. There is a chapter here. I just want to introduce you to that chapter, to tell you about the book I am holding. I'm talking about chapter 27, entitled Africa's Quest for Authentic Knowledge. It is written by John Lamola. Written by John Lamola. If you read the works here, you will be awakened to the need for African liberation. Africa has remained poor for too long. And African thinkers are rising to say that we have the capacity to redefine the condition of the African. And that is the mission of Chukwunwike Enekwechi in his work, Philosophy of African Liberation. You should read this. It is not a big book. It's a book you can read at a go, but it's inspiring. I also recommend this to you. The Pan-African Pantheon. These are works that will trouble your mind and inspire you to find solutions to the problems of Africa. The Restart Niger Conference. Is government involved?
At the moment, not yet.
But government will be involved.
Eventually, they will want to come in.
They will want to come in.
Yes.
If they don't come in, will it succeed?
Now, who is government? That's a question. Who is government? Government is not a person. Government is not even a people. Government is an instrument of public control. In the definition of intercultural liberty, I wrote it. Government is an instrument of public control. Anybody can take over government at any time. So it's like steering. And so one driver is taking away, another driver comes in and continues. So government is not individual. So it is the people who tell government what to do, not government telling people what to do. So when a new constitution comes up and it has the consent of the people, every member of the government is a product of a community in Nigeria. They didn't fall down from the sky. They are member. So when this is happening, of course they will come in. Yes, they will come in as individuals. So if the government officials are being sworn in on the constitution of colonialism, the constitution we have now is just a product of the colonial system, which is just edited until today. But the foundation remains the same. The triple stand of bondage is still at the root of the constitution.
So this constitution must go.
It's not that it must go. No, it cannot go. There are some beautiful, great elements and provisions inside the constitution. There are beautiful elements there. But the foundation has to be changed so that the beautiful elements can manifest, can be applied. Okay, there is something I used to tell people. When people talk about rule of law, I say you cannot have rule of law when you don't have laws. In Nigeria, although the constitution and its many provisions have some good elements in them, but it is not law yet. Let me make a distinction. Law is opposed to rule. Law is developed from the consent of the people upon whom it is enforced. But rule is imposed irrespective of the consent or interest or well-being of the people upon whom it is imposed. When a rule is imposed, there could be some beautiful things found in it. That doesn't make it law. It has not yet been consented by the people. So the rulers can decide to cherry pick which provisions to apply on the people. But when it comes from the people, when you try to cherry pick, you see a revolution in the system because it is what came from their consent. And everybody, for instance, in America, if a general will command some of his soldiers to go and arrest the president those soldiers will arrest him first, the general, for giving such command, because the law came from the consent of the people. In fact, the people are the first enforcers of the law. That is why in Nigeria and in some other African countries, because it is not law that came from the people, it is not people's law, it is imposed rule of the government, despite the beautiful elements in them. In Nigeria, when court gives a verdict, government can choose to ignore it and nothing will happen. Yes, government can choose to ignore it and nothing will happen, because it did not come from the consent of the people. The people are not the primary enforcers. The people are just there as beneficiaries. Whatever comes to us, we will take whenever, however. So that is it.
So as it stands,
yes,
this state does not belong to the people.
Not yet.
It is a colonial state.
Yes.
And it must be liberated.
Yes.
And in liberating it, we must have a philosophy,
yes,
of liberation.
Yes.
And that philosophy must be imbibed by the people.
Yes.
Because the philosophy comes from the people.
Exactly.
Chukwunwike Enekwechi, thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thank you so much.